Hey everyone, I'm Ruben from Workamajig. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's so nice to have you all on here. Um, let's let's kick off our webinar. Let's kick off. We have some awesome guests today. We have Raya from Avid Exchange, and we have Anna on with us from 10 Atoms. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to talk about our new Invoice feature, our new software. Raya, do you want to jump on and give a quick introduction?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. My name is Raya. I'm currently a solutions consultant with Avid Exchange. Up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was actually the product lead for the product that we're showing you today, Titanium for Workamajig. I come from an agency background, so that was a big driving force in wanting to build something for agencies and media advertisers in general. Um, so that's where we're going to focus today. On with us is Anna, who was our first EA on the product, and we love her.
Thank you, Anna.
Yep. So I'm the controller at 10 Atoms Healthcare Marketing. We are a full service agency based out of Evansville, Indiana, and we've been around for about 39 years. So I've been with the company for about 8 years, and I've really enjoyed the time getting to learn how agencies work and improving efficiencies. So both Workamajig and Avid Exchange have been really great partners for us.
Awesome.
Yes. Oh, welcome.
Thanks. Yep, we got it to work.
Good.
Yes, exactly. Those technical difficulties at the last moment. I'm Teresa Contario. I am with Avid Exchange. I represent our buyer and supplier sales team here and the business line executive for our media and project-based business line. So thrilled to be on this call with all of you. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined. I see a lot of familiar names in the attendee list. So excited to talk to you guys about this new solution. Ruben, did you give an intro?
Yeah, but I'm going to jump in quickly. Hey everyone, I'm Ruben. I'm a marketing manager here at Workamajig. I've been working pretty closely with Avid Exchange for the past, I'd say, 2 years. It's been a phenomenal experience just to see these ideas start as customer needs and, customer innovations and slowly turn into new products and new software. Something that lines up perfectly with Workamajig, really resonated with a lot of our users. And I'm super excited I learned more about this product, but I'm super excited to share that with you guys.
Awesome. And Ruben, in our pre-call, we talked a little bit about how important partnerships are to supporting our customer base. And Anna and Raya, you guys can chime in here too, but Ruben, one of the reasons I believe that it makes for a really good partnership fit between our companies as we think about our customers in the same way. Our product is only as good as the needs that it serves for our customers, and so we take product feedback seriously. And I think Raya, it's really important to call out. You said it in a quick blurb that you come from the agency side, but you're now solutions consultant on the Avid Exchange side, but not only a few weeks ago, product manager for us, helping us to build a solution that fits your customer profile, right? And so what better way to get feedback about the product that we need to build than having two users contribute to that functionality. Ruben, can you talk a little bit about what it means to find good partners who are willing to build along with you?
Yes, definitely. I'd love to. Specifically with Avid Exchange, I found it to be a pleasure to work together. Not just because I have a great team, that's for sure, but it's something I find unique. I would say in Workamajig and Avid Exchange is that they're not just listening to customers' feedback, but they're always looking to see what's the next big thing the customer needs. Another way that they could help their customers with their productivity and their profitability. Any way to make their life easier, to put it simple. It's something Workamajig that's I guess my role over here is always listening to feedback, asking for feedback, and trying to build on that feedback and serve our customers as well as we can. And something I find with Avid also, it's got this young feel of like just looking to grow, looking to expand. And it's just great working together.
We appreciate that. And Anna, you sit on a customer advisory board.
Yes.
So can you give us a little anecdote about what it's like to give feedback to our organization?
Of course. So I'll start back with, so when I started at 10 Atoms, you know, I'd never been in the agency world before. It was all brand new. Workamajig was completely new to me. And so I was tasked here at this agency with figuring out the best way to utilize that program. Didn't know what I didn't know, whatever. We, you know, talked with multiple consultants, learned about the different platforms out there. We already knew we weren't going to change from Workamajig because we were already, you know, so far into it. We're like, let's just make the best of this that we can. So in that process, learned just how valuable Workamajig is with as far as like, you know, we would find a missing piece. We'd go to Workamajig. They'd be like, well, here's what you can do. But if that's not enough, we'll figure out what we need to do to make it happen. So literally, like there's monthly updates. I'll get an update. We'll submit an idea. And then usually within the next update, we'll get a note saying, hey, that's part of the release. Like this has been fixed or this has been added. And it's amazing to know that you are listened to, because you can send product feedback on other platforms we use and it just kind of gets on this long list, but ours is always listened and valued and you know, brought to fruition. And same with, so whenever I just love making things, working smarter, you know, finding the best way to do things. So when I was asked to be on the client advisory board with Avid Exchange, I was like, yeah, of course, because I like I said, like looking for better ways to do things. And it's nice when they care and they like, you know, they're only as good as the value that their clients see in it. So they listen and, you know, it's really awesome to build out Titanium for the Workamajig implementation. You know, from that side, we have a good relationship with both companies. So it's really been a great experience.
You were brave.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love finding stuff. It's been great. It wasn't brave. It was fun. So
and we enjoyed working with you as well. It was a great push and pull on the data and the ideas and how to make it better.
Totally.
And another thing that Anna and I share in common is like our love for finding good solutions, of working smarter, not harder, and specifically things for this industry. Because I found this industry is so underserved when it comes to media specific products that it's like we always have to look for somebody to help us build it. Yeah. And that was the big reason why I decided to come to Avid, was they were so open to like building things and having that input. And so that was a really great part.
Yeah. So I first got involved with Avid with the fast pay integration. We were using another company for it. And then Avid came to us, approached us like, hey, we've got this. This is how we do it. And it saved so much time. We're like, okay, let's for sure look into that. So we made the switch. And then whenever the Titanium was offered, like it's awesome to have that integration, because we have a lot of platforms we use, and the fewer the better, especially if we're, you know, listened to and can make things work as best as possible. Like it's a win-win. It's a no-brainer.
Well, and I also love the name of the webinar. It's the secret to increased efficiency and simplified invoice processing. And frankly, the more conversations I'm having, and by the way, I also do see some, we call them brand clients in the crowd as well. So we're you know, this is a media centric team, but at the end of the day, a media industry is project-based work and project-based business. And they are businesses after all. So there's overhead and production and other invoice types that apply here as well. So that's another synergy that we needed to make sure we checked off between the Workamajig and Avid Exchange folks. But I think what I was going to say was, the more I'm having these conversations among potential customers, the more I'm hearing the response, I haven't done this because I just didn't think it was something I could automate. So once you know you can automate a process that drains time, staff resources, and also generally can't give you reports that you can expect in other aspects of your business, you know, you can't go back to the old thinking. Totally. And so I hope, Yeah, right. And I think it's like an under thought of project that you may have not slated for this year
Sure.
to necessarily take on, because it feels like a pretty big feat. But ultimately, let's get into, Anna, like, what sparked you even looking for an invoice automation solution?
Yep.
And
So
that isn't something you just Google in.
totally. Yeah, that's how I found the initial invoice solution. I was like, there's got to be a better way to pay media invoices because it's such a high volume. Like, there's got to be a bit. So yes, I did find it via Google, but this one I found out through my customer support manager with Avid. But it was because we have the employee that works for me had triplets. And we were like trying to figure out how we were going to shift her responsibilities while she goes on maternity leave. And this came to me at the perfect time. Like, okay, this will be great because we've got the other person on our team is remote. And so the problem is we've got the mail coming to us here in Evansville. She's in Florida. Like, how are we going to have a remote person handle this? So this solution was perfect. We could scan those invoices into Titanium, and then that process would be automated from there. She could be the person who kind of, the human side of it. And then anything else could just be emailed directly to that inbox. So it was a really good solution for covering for our maternity leave, but also moving forward, it's like, hey, let's just be more efficient. Like, there's more important things to spend our time on than data entry.
Yeah, I love it. And actually, one of the participants asked the question around if this is pertaining, like, which side of the invoicing are we talking about?
Yeah.
And that's a really fair question. For this, we're talking about the accounts payable. So you have loads of invoices that are coming into your business. How do you organize and streamline those and then send them on for approval to be sent for payment ultimately? So that's a great clarification question from the crowd.
And one of the, can I say, one of my favorite parts about it is so, you've got this invoice that's pushed back into Workamajig. If the data entry is done, it's codes it to either the PO or the overhead GL to the project, whatever. But within the description now, it's going to be a link, and you click on that and it pulls up that invoice copy. So it's like your digital file cabinet, because we were spending a lot of time scanning invoices with the payment remittance information. And it's just like, it's all right there. Anybody, it doesn't have to be in accounting. Anybody can go in and click into that link if they have access to Titanium and get a copy of the invoice for further detail. So
right.
Really cool.
And what it looked like before was email routing around the agency, shared folders, right? That's what
exactly right.
we're solving for. And Ryan, can you talk a little bit about, like, when you were on the agency side, because you went through a similar experience as Anna, right?
So for us, what we were doing is it was just a volume issue. So when I first started looking for an AP automation solution, we were about 300 invoices a month with tons of lines, a lot of data entry, a lot of like tracking things down. We spent a ton of time following up with people, emailing them, asking them that they do the thing, tracking the paper down on their desk. And so that's when I started it. And I spent a good amount of time looking for a solution before before FastPay was actually acquired by Avid. And then you guys were like, hey, we think we have it. We think we can build something for you. And you did. And it was great. And it made my life so much easier. So through that building process, I applied all of that learning to what became Titanium for Workamajig. And it was just the sheer volume. I think by the time we went live, we were doing something like 500 invoices a month. Me and my team, we were spending close to 80, maybe 100 hours a month just on entering invoices and tracking them. Just updating Google Sheets, updating the paperwork, making sure that our digital filing cabinet was reflective. And so we wanted to stop all of that. And so that's why we really were looking for AP automation. So.
Love it. And for the participants too, we are going to get into a demo of the platform here in just a minute. But I do want to also talk about, like, do you feel like there is a limit to where you need to prohibit, are you large enough? If users or people are thinking, am I large enough to automate this process? At what point do you recommend they start looking into solutions?
whether you're a one-person team or you're processing 50, maybe 100 invoices max a month, it still helps because then you're doing all of the stuff digitally. You're tracking people down digitally. The system will remind them. You don't have to worry about like messaging them on Slack or Teams or anywhere else to like try and track this down. I think like that's the benefit of starting when you're smaller, because then the scale of growth.
It's scalable. That's true. And just that digital file cabinet to me is huge. You have one place, everybody knows where to go get those invoice copies. And eventually, I think we're working on having the payment remittance information from FastPay tied in there too. So it's all in one.
Exactly.
To me, that's priceless. That's amazing.
It's the dream. The dream.
It is.
Yeah. And
for every day.
that's great. Ruben, is there anything else that you think, you know, from a partner standpoint, we should make sure to touch on with some of the participants that are listening in today?
Sure. I love that point. I think it was important to point it out that it's a one fit for even smaller companies. A lot of our Workamajig users started at smaller companies. They've been growing, we've been growing with them. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they come to us is they get everything in order and everything automated, and they just scale with them. So I think that was super important.
Love it. Yeah, and as Raya goes through the demo, please feel free to throw questions into the chat. I am going to turn it over to let you guys see this in action, and then we can end for Q&A and wrap up at the end with Q&A. But please feel free to pepper in your questions, and we can interject throughout the session. Take it away, Raya.
So just give me a minute and I'll set up my screen share here.
No problem.
There we go. Okay. I think everybody should be able to see where we are.
Sure.
So when I started at Noble People, I started with them as an assistant. So I've been through all of the growing pains and the things that like that of like trying to find the right fit, trying to track down paper invoices, creating processes, like the whole 9 yards. While Workamajig, Titanium from Workamajig is my first product at AvidXchange, it's not my last. I'm currently in process of doing a couple more. So while I'm doing that, I'm also a solutions consultant, which means I'm just helping people figure out which one of our solutions can help them, as well as like making sure that all of your feedback is heard. So that's really who I am and what I do here. So we'll quickly go through an overview and then talk about some of those specific features, like how we acquire them, what are capture templates, what kind of workflows you can do, the types of coding, and how we migrate the data back and forth. So we'll do a couple quick videos in here as well. So this is So then that was just a quick overview of the product, and then let's take you through. So this is our invoice ingestion. So the way that we acquire invoices is through a couple different places. You can either do a manual acquire where you drag and drop it into the platform. At some point the video will catch up to me, I promise. And so what you do is you drag your file over, you drop it in, and then you can process it manually that way. Our biggest one, though, is the auto acquire feature. The auto acquire feature is an inbox monitoring tool that will then grab your PDFs off of your invoices, off of those emails. So that way you don't have to save them down somewhere, hope and pray that everybody's putting them in the same place. All you do is you send it to that inbox, and the the monitoring will just automatically pick it up, grab that PDF, and start the acquire process for you. Part of that acquire process is making sure that it's being directed to the correct data entry groups. So the data entry group can be one of those that we have up here. They can be as broad as just media production and overhead, or as specific as like out of home. This one is specifically an out of home. And there are a couple different ways that you can also then, if your vendor sends you multiple invoices in the same PDF, you can split those invoices in this screen as well, either by page number, by the number of pages, by blank pages. That's, how they send them every once in a while. There's that blank page that just trips you up. And so you'll acquire it through here. And then this is to ensure that you're uploading the invoice that you think you're uploading, because sometimes you grab the wrong file. And then it'll take you all the way through to the acquire. This is where you can see any of your auto acquired areas in case something doesn't process all the way through. It'll definitely let you know, and you can check and make sure that nothing is being missed at that point. And there are numbers that end up showing up. So that way you'll know exactly how many you have in each of these queues at any given point. Okay, another thing with the auto acquire is it picks up mostly PDFs, but it does have a couple other file formats that it will pick up. So .tiff files it does, PNG files. What it doesn't do are Word documents, Excel documents, things that can be altered after upload. So we want to make sure that those files are that you're using. We recommend PDF files. The more original they are, the better it is for our OCR, our optical character recognition smart technology, which we'll be going over in the capture template section in a little bit.
And Raya, one of the things I like about an invoice automation system and tool is, basically you're kind of helping to clean up your invoice ingestion process from the beginning too, right? As you are working with onboarding customers, part of it is an evaluation of what types of invoices you get. Are they in the right format? Do you need to go back to vendors and request that you get invoices a certain way? It sort of helps to sort of do that diligence as part of your master process. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes. So what it's also doing is it's forcing your team members to push everything into one centralized location. It's also helping people realize like where the missing invoices tend to go, and it streamlines that process of receiving invoices. We always recommend that once the inbox is created, even before we go live, that you start getting your vendors used to sending invoices to that inbox. We recommend putting it on all of your insertion orders, your purchase orders, all of those orders, so that way they know how you're expecting to receive those invoices. Most of them usually comply.
Worst case scenario, if they still send them to you, like we'll just forward it ourselves to that inbox. But that's also, you don't want to enable them too long.
Exactly.
Right.
But the upside is that you can always be like, just forward it over. And that way, if it ends up in a buyer's inbox, it's super quick, easy, and it can still be captured within the same day.
Yep.
Okay. So that's invoice ingestion. So capture templates. So capture templates are part of our OCR technology that we utilize in order to help streamline the acquire feature. What it does, it's set up by supplier or vendor, and it can be absolutely created before you go live. It does not have to be done on the fly. We actually recommend doing it during the implementation process. So that way, once you do go live, all of your invoices are flowing the way that you want them to. As you can see, we're capturing the same invoice from before and just making sure. So you'll name it by the vendor, which is what we usually recommend. If you want to add any other qualifiers like overhead or media specific, so that way it can be a little bit searchable in case it needs to be updated, that's also recommended. There are two different, both date and decimal formats that we support. We support both the European format as well as the American, the dot place as well as the comma for all of your international invoices as well.
Raya, we got a question here about the acquiring invoices within different inboxes. The question was, do you have different inboxes for different GLs? Have you all encountered that?
I have not encountered that as yet, but the recommendation can be that if we recommend one inbox just for ease of setup. If there are multiple inboxes, then it can get a bit confusing. Within that, though, there are specific areas where you can create alerts almost for those vendors specifically. So you can pick that vendor email and create a specific alert that will push it through to the correct group. So that way you don't need to worry about like, oh, am I hitting the right data entry group? Am I not? Is it being sent through to media or operations? That's part of the setup where we're looking at those vendor email addresses actually.
And this is part of the approval workflow, right? So per various vendors or media types or invoice types, you can set up different routing workflows. So if it needs to go through several folks within your organization, you can automate that approval workflow. And so there's sort of no need to set up different inboxes because you can define it at the invoice level or the media type level.
Exactly. And so as you're setting up these templates, there are quite a few different pieces. As you can see, there's a section down here called auto acquire settings. Within those settings is where you'll put in all of those different routing things that you would want for specific vendor emails. So if you know all of those invoices come from AP at outofhomevendor.com, we can put that in, and then anything that comes from them will automatically get routed to a specific workflow, and that's where it'll begin. Any other questions?
There are questions here, and Raya, if you're gonna get to this might have to do more with how we are utilizing matching the invoices with the orders. The question, they specified for you, Anna, but does your agency utilize an order system like Strata? And then what if a majority of the invoices are imported from a media buying service like Strata and Galeforce, et cetera? You guys want to talk to that, or is that coming up?
We can talk about it in the coding section in a couple minutes. So that's definitely coming up. We can just briefly talk about workflows. So workflows are 100% customizable. You can make them as complex or as simple as you want them to be. And there are specific fields within the workflow where we can route based on. You can route it based on your entity, like your clients, your vendors. You can do it by media type. You can do it by supplier. You can even do it down to the campaign and project level. So those are all of the things that we can do to help create those workflows. And there are ways to set it up so you can do group approvals. So if you want to put all of your assistants on one level of the approval workflow, that you can create just a group of all your assistant buyers, and then your media supervisors, and then your directors if they need to be in there as well. So that talks to the workflow. And then we can talk about the invoice coding section. So we do all of the different kinds of coding that you can think of. You can do it against your GL. You can do it against your POs, your IOs, and your broadcast orders. I cannot say BO. It's weird every time. So it can either be by the entire purchase order, or it can be by the specific line. So let me just start this up. Oh, no, not me. So once they've been acquired, they go into an AP entry queue, and in there, you can begin your execution. But we can also do it where you can split an invoice between just the GL and one order or a bunch of different orders in case you ever have those invoices that come in that are being partially covered by the agency or the company, and then the other half that's being covered by an advertiser. So that's another way that we do all of that. In a second, it'll take you to the screen, I promise. There are a couple different views in which you can see your invoice entry screen. This view is the horizontal view. And here you can enter in all of the different required fields, your vendors, your GLs, your a PGL that you need to book it to. If you have a different one for media versus overhead versus production, we can also accommodate that. All of these fields can also be moved around, so that way you have the optimal view for yourself. They can either be set at a local level or across the entire agency for that view, which is also beneficial. This horizontal view can also be expanded up, which you'll see. Hey, timing is working out. And then with that plus sign, you're adding the GL code itself. And then for the full orders, you're going to either do add purchase order, add insertion order, or add broadcast order. And then if you want a specific line within that order, you'll hit the order line for that type. And then it'll pull up everything that's related to that vendor, to that client as well. So then it'll just put down the lines that you're selecting as opposed to all of them. And then you can continue coding and making sure. Once it's been completely coded, everything's been attached to it, you'll see that it'll point towards the form view as well. So this is another view as well. So you can do the form view in case you don't want to see things vertically. You can see it. I mean, you can see it vertically as well as horizontally. And so that makes a big difference because, you know, everybody has a different way of viewing things, or different preference of like how they like their screens to be, which I enjoy the form view just because I like having things side by side. Once you're done with the coding and all of that stuff, you'll hit save and you're out. And usually within a few minutes, it'll be routed from Titanium into Workamajig. At most, it's usually 15 minutes, but I think Anna can attest to it's like maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes that it gets pushed into it. But we do pull data on an hourly basis from Workamajig. So that's another part. I hope that answered the coding questions.
Well, and I think that let's expand on it just for a second, and since we have the audience asking that question, but when you have, there's sort of a reconciliation path that needs to occur within your buying system, but all of the invoices can be routed through this system to make sure that they're all captured and that the appropriate approver is assigned to every single invoice, right? So there's sort of a method to the madness now. Every single business invoice comes through this system, including all the invoices that would generally live in Strata or Galeforce. Those are now coming into this system. But the end reconciliation, we're hoping all of the PO, IO, broadcast data is all living in Workamajig. If that's not how it's happening today, Ruben, you might have some thoughts about how that can happen today. Anna, maybe you also want to chime in about that the fact that your order data has to and does live in Workamajig as sort of like a philosophy of the company, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we use POs, for production and overhead, typically production invoices. And so that links into Titanium. For media, we haven't gotten there yet. We're only using the Titanium solution for production and overhead. So we do use Strata, and all of our insertion orders and everything originate from it and push over to Workamajig. And that's a whole separate process for us for now.
And Ruben, do you want to talk to the getting the PO or IO data from Strata to Workamajig?
I'm actually not the best person to talk to that.
Okay.
But I think most of our Workamajig, yeah.
And I can talk about, so we have a sync, kind of the same thing as with Titanium and Workamajig. There's a sync that happens with Strata and Workamajig. You create it over at Strata, it pushes that order information into Workamajig. The invoice entry happens in Strata, make sure everything ties back to the order. And once it's approved, it syncs back over into Workamajig, ready for payment and then billing of the client. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for that. I think that might be the crux of what folks are asking in that question, sort of underlying, right? They're sort of saying, do those still need to happen outside of the system, or can they happen through this process? Yeah,
I do. We do pay the media, and we pay everything that we do. Production, overhead, media invoices all are paid through the fast pay solution. So once they're in Workamajig and ready to pay, like we use that. So what I'm really looking forward to is having that archiving capability of the media invoices in the digital file cabinet within Titanium. That'll be the most value for us because, you know, that's a lot of stuff that media vendors and our media buyers will need to refer back to those invoices. And right now it's annoying to have to go back and retrieve those. So it'll be really nice to have all of that in one place.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Go ahead, Raya.
Okay. So that's the types of coding. And I think we touched on this next piece a little bit already. So this is about the API connection that we have. So 98% of everything that we're going to be doing in Titanium is automatically pushed and pulled via the APIs. The only thing that is a manual piece is the GL codes. And that's just to ensure that we're not capturing any header data that you don't want anybody to code against, any GLs that are specifically used in-house and do not need to be accessible by the entire agency. We want to make sure all of that is taken out before the GLs get uploaded. Anytime you add a GL, though, we can always do another upload. It's a really quick 2-minute process to upload GLs and get them updated. Yep. But everything else gets pushed back and forth through the API connection. We ping Workamajig for new data every hour, and we push as soon as you hit approve. It starts that push. So invoices are getting pushed into Workamajig almost instantaneously, and data is being pulled every hour. So if you do update something within an hour, it's in Titanium as well. So that way you can make those updates, code your things. You're not waiting for an overnight sync or anything like that. And we do sync it completely with like the statuses that you have in Workamajig. So you can sync it as approved and posted, and unapproved, that whatever works for your workflow. If you need finance to have a little extra, push to review those invoices, you can hit them as approved, but not approved and posted. So that way they have to post them before you pay them. So that's another good checks and balance that we also put in. And then I think this is the end. Now it's all just Q&A. Ask me those questions.
Yeah, and I sort of tried, Raya, I hope I didn't mess with your flow too much, but I tried to pepper in a number of those questions during when it was reasonable to bring it up. There's one question about handling matching invoices to labor time for contractors that enter a timesheet in Workamajig. Anna, do you have experience with that at this point? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Not yet, but I would imagine it would act like an order.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, but we've not, and we do that. So great question, Raya. Do you have any idea? I think we would need to build that capability out to pull in.
I think we would need to discuss just what the feature does a bit more in order for me to understand what the question is.
Just like an order, I'm sure, though. So, hey, so this is why it's good to work with them, because like, oh, hey,
absolutely,
we'll figure it out. It's in there. We'll make it happen. So, yeah.
If Workamajig can do it, I'm sure we can figure it out.
Nice. Love it.
Between our engineering team and the Workamajig engineering team, they have such a great relationship, and they work so well together that we can make updates and changes and things like that quite quickly comparatively. It does take some time for testing. They do put it through quite rigorous testing, though.
Which is good.
Yes. This leads us to another question, which is what kind of training and support do you offer to help us get started with the solution? And you're looking at her.
I build it, I support it, I sell it, I do all of the things. But right now, I am the support for it. We are also building what we call a knowledge base, which will have articles on how to do things. It'll also have user guide videos. There's an extremely comprehensive user guide that we just finished putting together. And we'll have videos that will match that user guide as well. So there's that. We do training sessions along with our discovery sessions. So during the discovery session, we'll talk about how your company wants to use it. And then during the training sessions, we'll teach you how to make sure that your workflows are being set up the way you want them to. If you need to change them, things like that, we'll show you how to do all of that stuff. So there's about 4 or 5 hours worth of training in general. And then you also have the knowledge base. And then if there are support questions, we have a great website where you can submit tickets, and our team is really good about getting back to them, usually about 24 to 48 hours once a ticket is submitted for all of their Titanium products. So
awesome. I'll jump in from the Workamajig side. I know internally we went through some training for our support team recently to teach them about this new feature. You know, some of us had the opportunity to work with it while they were building it out, but not everyone on the support team did. So we definitely went through some internal training, had to handle it from the Workamajig side, and our support team is ready to help out on our end.
Love that. We did get another question, which was one, can you combine files or combine 2 PDFs into one PDF? I'll let you say yay or nay if that's a yes.
So that's an absolute. Once you upload the first PDF, if you want to add additional pages to it within that AP invoice entry screen, once you get to the coding screen, there is a place where it goes add pages. You can also remove pages. You can upload additional files. You can write on the file. It does a ton of things. So you can annotate those files. You can highlight them. You can do whatever you need to do on them.
Perfect. That's the next part of the question. And then it's, can you name the file? And of course you can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. So there's things that you can do. However you name it, that's how it gets uploaded. And like Anna was saying, that link will go automatically to Workamajig, so you can just click it. There's also robust search features and inquiry features that are happening as well that we're getting updated. So that's always a fun piece. The ability to download an audit.
Yes. And what's also nice is if you're in Workamajig and you want to view an invoice copy, if you don't have access, if you're not in Titanium, or if you don't have the access within Titanium to view a certain invoice, it won't let you see it. So I know it's helpful for sensitive information.
Absolutely.
Awesome. There's another question. If we already utilize FastPay and Workamajig and have a unified email for our AP, how long would implementation take?
Not long at all. I mean, it's really that part of it then is driven by you. So however much time you can give us is how long it'll take to implement. We can implement it as quickly as 6 weeks or as long as 3 months. It's really up to you.
Love that. I see another one. How are credit memos handled?
Let me search for it in the archive. Hold on.
Yeah, exactly. Really AI, everyone.
Like, wait a minute. I want to say credit memos are handled the exact same way as invoices are handled. They are just like the negative of it. Yeah. So it should be just fine. I promise.
That's right.
Yeah. On the Workamajig side, it's a little different. It's hard to see those credit memos. You know, like if you go into a vendor invoice listing, they're not going to show up there. So it's a good question about but it is a record. So I would imagine it'll get pushed in and then you would still have that link to view the credit memo, but to view it, you have to kind of dig into the invoice it was applied to, or go into another viewing to view the credit memo. You know, there's a view.
Yeah, there's a separate section in Workamajig just for credit memos.
Isolate just the credit memos. Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Our AP automation, our current AP automation system has about a 4-day delay between processing a payment in Workamajig and pushing the payment through to vendors from the AP automation system.
Yep.
What's the time frame under AvidXchange?
Are you referring to CSI? I'm assuming that person is referring to CSI, and I know there was, yes, I had that same problem. I don't know the answer.
Yes, CSI. They're talking in real time.
But it's faster. FastPay is faster, especially on depending on
you're good at
it. Probably.
Nice.
You know what else I love about FastPay compared to that other solution is when I had it several years ago, I would have to select the invoices I wanted to pay via virtual card, and then I'd have to select the invoices I wanted to pay via paper check. That was tricky, but it was also, I wasn't really you would have to be diligent about sending that list of vendors over to the CSI team to get them to vet out hey, this is, that they do accept V cards. Then you have to go in and flag it. With FastPay, it's just all one batch, send it over, and then they do the automation, what do they call it? The decisioning.
Trove database decisioning. So we have a large database that we call Trove.
Yeah. So it's on
every vendor that we service.
It's an extension of the team. They're the ones out there vetting them out. And then if they're not accepting V cards, then they contact them and try to get them to accept, because it's beneficial to FastPay as well for them to accept virtual cards. So that's a huge time saver.
Yeah.
But also, as far as the payment turnaround once it's approved is faster with FastPay, but I don't know. I can't remember the difference.
It's very much dependent on the agency, but
it's
yeah. So there
Depends
are
on
also
the funding model, right? So, right.
But if you send your batch in by 11 o'clock in the morning, your checks will be sent out that evening.
Yeah.
That's the type of turnaround for the checks, at least. The rest of them, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to y'all about it. Hit us up. We'll figure it out.
Anna, have you thought about moving from Strata to doing IOs in Workamajig?
Oh, no. So our media team runs that, and I'm not going to step on their toes by any means. So no, that process works for us. And if it ain't broke, we're not going to fix it. But I am interested to see how Titanium, like I said, could help with the archiving of those invoices on my end there. And that would be a good solution.
Yep.
Yes. But that's another thing that, like, even for small agencies, getting the media team's buy-in along with the finance team has always been hard.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make this product as user-friendly for both teams as possible.
Right.
So that's kind of what we built, especially with the workflows, so they can be like really detailed to how the media team wants their things to flow. If it needs to flow by person, by type, or by campaign, you know, that's how we built it.
You know, with us, it's like, hey, if I can get in here and really like it and advocate for it and sell it to the media team as a, you know, if it makes sense, then yeah, but on our end, I want to try it out and make sure it works for us before I ask them to do any changes. Another thing with our media team, where we do the disc profiles here at 10 Adams. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. We have a lot of high C's in our media department, which are perfectionists. They like to do things a certain way, and they're like very detailed. And so the fact that they're good, they're on board with fast pay, and like that process is very telling. It's like it shows how much of a trusted partnership it is. So,
well, it gives them a lot of, I hear users or a participant says we have a lot of C's in our media team too. But it does
to have, honestly.
I mean, it does show that there does need to be some buy-in, but I think when you're talking about C's, I also think control, right? And it's when I was a media buyer, I needed to be able to see like my proof of payment, right? I needed to know how to communicate with my vendors. I'm on the front lines constantly negotiating. So the more visibility in the entire invoice to pay process, the better.
And it goes along with, so it's kind of like AI before AI was a thing. It's like you've got that automation, but you still have the human touch, which is really important for those C's.
Exactly. And with Titanium, there is a huge level of control that can be implemented within it. So you can have it where somebody can have access to all of the different dashboards. We have quite a few of them, and you can break those dashboards out by like vendor or campaigns or clients by user. So you can see like who's the holdup normally. We also have reports that we're fitting into this, that we're featured reports that we're creating for things like missing invoices, orders without invoices, invoices that have just been like hanging out somewhere. We don't know what they belong to. We call those orphan invoices. So these are all things that we're working on to make sure that they're included to help your teams track those invoices. Because that was also the bane of my existence, trying to figure out which invoice belonged to what campaign when it's not on there. So we want to make sure that you have a place to look for those things. So that way, you know, oh, we're getting these invoices. They're never putting the client on there or the advertiser on there, and we just can never process them. So that way you'll have a queue for that. You'll have a way to pull reporting for any orders that don't have invoices on them. Like you're trying to make sure all of your June things are done. You can pull a report July looking for all of your June invoices, or rather your May invoices that needed to be processed in June. And then that's the best way for me to describe the amount of control you'll have.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Love it. There's one last question, and I think we will have to wrap for time. But I'm loving these questions, so keep them coming, and I'll do my best to answer them on the fly. About when paying invoices through FastPay, does that process change when you add Titanium, or will we still make payments through Workamajig the way we currently do? There, you got it. No and yes.
That's right. Exactly the same.
The way I think about it,
exactly the same. Yeah.
The way I think about it is that you've got an invoice reconciliation approval process. you want again, the accounting system to be the core system that everything centralizes into, and from the accounting system, then you push to FastPay. So we'll kind of call it AvidXchange is on both
That's
sides
exactly
of that now.
Getting it in, paying it, and yeah.
Yep. Love it. And then we got, what's a typical time savings per person or per invoice that's expected? And Raya, you've like lived some of this in real life. So
and if you're counting the archiving part too, because that was so time consuming, scanning them. So I count all of it.
So what we went from at Noble was about 100 hours per month of just entering invoices, saving invoices, tracking invoices, to, I want to say, 8-ish hours just on the invoice piece. And I can check with my coworker that's still there, but like she does them so quickly now that it's like they've got their queues down, they know who's got to go in when, they stopped having to track people, which is a huge part of it. They know exactly where to go looking for invoice copies. Nobody has to wonder. Anybody that has access to the modules will be able to see it. The security is always reflective. It's similar, like whatever your security is in the ERP, that's what's in the platform. So that's another time saving as well. Now your media people can see where that invoice is in the process. So hopefully, and then once we have the integration with FastPay, which is coming up down the road, is that you'll be able to see that pay status within Titanium as well.
It'd be really cool because sometimes what I like about that is, you may pay an invoice in Workamajig, send it over and to FastPay, but maybe the approver doesn't approve it for 3 days. So when you go and look at the date that the payment was sent in Workamajig, it could say today, but in reality, that payment may not get approved and mailed out until next Tuesday. And so it'll be nice to have all that right there and the type of payment that was sent out. All of it.
And then obviously our FastPay is also connected to our supplier hub, where some of our suppliers can log in and view those statuses as well. So there's a couple different integrated pieces.
Sure. Yeah, well, this is such, I mean, I can't believe an hour just went by, but it was such a lively group. I really appreciate all of the attendees, the time you took to talk with us or hear us talk today. If you are interested in the solution, I threw out the alias you can contact, which is fastpaysales@avidexchange.com. We will route your inquiries to the correct sales person, and you will likely find Raya and myself on the other side of that email. So please do reach out and find out more about how we can help you continue your partnership with Workamajig and extend it to the invoice and AP automation side of your house. Thank you to Anna, Ruben, and Raya for a lively discussion.
It's been great.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.